The year was 5025, and Earth had not seen war for 3,000 years. The morning sun rose over New Sol, casting golden light across floating gardens that drifted lazily between crystal towers. Children played in parks where gravity wells let them bounce 50 feet into the air, laughing as they soared through rainbow mists. Admiral Lee Hyun sat in his office, sipping tea and reading poetry. His job as commander of the Solar Defense Force had been quiet for so long that most people forgot the position existed. The last time anyone had needed defending was when a comet threatened Mars, and even that had been handled by civilian mining crews who turned it into a light show for the colonies. His peaceful morning ended when Lieutenant Park Yan burst through his door, her face pale with excitement. "Sir, we have contact. Unknown ships at the edge of the solar system." Lee Hyun set down his cup carefully. "How many ships?" 57, sir. "They're big. Really big." Lee Hyun walked to the observation deck with the calm pace of a man who had lived through nothing more dangerous than budget meetings. Through the massive windows, he could see the distant flicker of unknown vessels against the stars. They looked angry, all sharp edges and dark metal. Dr. Park Mina arrived within minutes, her research team trailing behind with excited chatter. As the head of the Galactic Research Institute, she had spent decades hoping for this moment. First contact with alien life. "They're beautiful," she whispered, watching the alien fleet through her instruments. "Look at those hull designs. The engineering must be incredible." Captain Kim Juno landed his ship Harmony's Edge on the observation deck's platform. He stepped out with the easy smile of someone who flew between stars the way others took walks in the park. "Admiral, the visitors want to talk," he said. "Should I open a channel?" "Of course," Lee Hyun replied. "Let's see what they have to say." The main screen flickered to life, showing a creature that looked like Nightmare given form. It stood 8 feet tall, covered in dark scales with 4 arms and eyes like burning coals. Behind it, Lee Hyun could see dozens of similar beings, all armed and armored. "I am War Prime Kethva of the Vextar Empire," the creature announced in a voice like grinding stone. "We have come to claim this system. Surrender your worlds, primitives. The Vextar have arrived to take what is rightfully ours." The command center fell silent. Everyone stared at the screen, processing what they had just heard. Then Lee Hyun smiled. It was a warm, genuine smile, the kind a grandfather might give to a confused child. He straightened his simple blue uniform and stepped forward. "Welcome to our neighborhood, War Prime Kethva," he said pleasantly. "I'm Admiral Lee Hyun. It's wonderful to meet you. Would you like some tea? We have excellent varieties from Earth and Mars." War Prime Kethva's burning eyes widened. Behind him, his warriors shifted nervously. This was not the response they expected. "Did you not hear me, primitive? I said surrender your worlds." "Oh, I heard you perfectly," Lee Hyun replied, still smiling. "But you must be tired after such a long journey. Why don't you rest while we prepare a proper welcome? Dr. Park Mina here would love to learn about your culture. She's quite excited to meet you." Dr. Park Mina stepped forward, practically bouncing with enthusiasm. "Yes, we have so many questions. Your ship design, your biology, your social structure. This is amazing." War Prime Kethva looked back at his officers. One of them, a scarred veteran with 3 eyes, whispered urgently in their alien language. The War Prime turned back to the screen. "You mock us with your calm. Do you not understand? We are conquerors. We have destroyed 100 worlds." "That sounds very impressive," Lee Hyun said kindly. "You must have many interesting stories. Perhaps you could share them over dinner?" The alien leader's mouth opened and closed several times. Finally, he managed to speak again. "We will demonstrate our power. Prepare to witness the destruction of your moon." The transmission ended. Through the windows, they could see the alien fleet moving toward Luna, their weapons charging with ominous light. "Should we do something?" asked Lieutenant Park Yan. "Oh, Luna will be fine," said Captain Kim Juno. "The crystal gardens around Luna City are quite pretty this time of year." Dr. Park Mina was already making notes on her tablet. "I wonder what kind of energy weapons they use. The spectral analysis should be fascinating." Lee Hyun returned to his tea. "Lieutenant Park, please send a message to Luna City. Tell them we have visitors who might put on a light show. They should watch from the observation lounges." On Luna, families gathered at the great crystal domes to watch the alien demonstration. Children pressed their faces against the transparent walls, pointing excitedly at the approaching ships. Parents held babies up to see their first alien visitors. The Vextar fleet opened fire with weapons that could crack planets. Beams of pure destruction lanced toward Luna City, enough energy to boil oceans and melt continents. The beams struck the crystal gardens surrounding the city and simply vanished. The beautiful formations of crystal and light that decorated Luna's surface absorbed every joule of energy without even flickering. The gardens actually glowed a bit brighter for a moment, as if the aliens had fed them a snack. Families on Luna applauded politely. Children asked their parents if there would be more pretty lights. Back on Earth, War Prime Kethva's voice crackled through the speakers again, now with a note of confusion. Your defenses. What sorcery is this? Oh, those aren't defenses, Dr. Parkmina said cheerfully. Those are just the decorative gardens. Engineer Chode designed them for the Luna Arts Festival. They're meant to catch and reflect starlight, but I suppose they work on other kinds of light too. Decorative gardens. Yes, they're quite beautiful at night. You should see them when the Earth is full. The way they reflect our home's light across the lunar surface is absolutely stunning. Admiral Lee Hyun set down his empty cup and looked at the screen with gentle eyes. War Prime Kethva, you seem upset. Are you hungry, tired? We have comfortable quarters prepared if you'd like to rest. The guest suites on Station Harmony have lovely views of Saturn's rings. The alien leader stared at them for a long moment. Behind him, his warriors whispered among themselves in growing confusion. This is not how conquest works, War Prime Kethva said finally. Well, said Lee Hyun with another warm smile. Perhaps we could show you how hospitality works instead? War Prime Kethva spent 3 days trying to understand the humans. His spy drones watched their cities, expecting to find hidden weapons factories or secret military bases. Instead, they found art studios, schools, and gardens. Lots and lots of gardens. The humans went about their daily lives as if 57 warships had not just threatened to destroy them. Children still played in parks. Artists still painted murals on building walls. Scientists still conducted their research with calm focus. It made no sense. Engineer Cho Dai was working in his studio when the alien drones found him. He was designing a new sculpture for the Mars colonies, something involving light and crystal that would make music when the wind touched it. He noticed the small metal spheres watching him and waved cheerfully. Hello there. Are you the alien visitors? How exciting. Would you like to see my latest project? The drones recorded everything as Chode showed them his plans. What looked like art to human eyes looked like something else entirely to Vextar military analysts. The crystal formations could focus energy. The metal frameworks could redirect force. The harmless sculptures were actually sophisticated defensive systems, but Chode talked about them as if they were just pretty decorations. On the research station near Jupiter, historian Oyuna was giving a lecture to students about Earth's ancient past. The alien drones listened as she spoke about the old wars, the terrible conflicts that had shaped humanity's early history. The resource wars lasted 40 years, she explained to her class. Billions died fighting over water and rare metals. The AI rebellion nearly ended human civilization. The Great Unification Wars, well, those were messy too. But that was all before the peace accords of 2156. We learned better ways to solve problems. A student raised her hand. Professor O, what was it like? The fighting? Oyuna's expression grew sad. Horrible. We were very good at war, you see, too good. We could destroy entire worlds in hours, turn planets into glass, break moons apart for raw materials. That's why we stopped. The alien drones recorded every word, sending the information back to War Prime Kethva. The humans had been warriors once, planet killers, moonbreakers, but they had given it up voluntarily. Why would anyone give up such power? Trader Kang Su was loading his ship with supplies for the outer colonies when the aliens made their next move. His cargo vessel, Peaceful Journey, looked like a simple merchant ship. Clean white hull, efficient design, nothing threatening about it. War Prime Kethva decided to test these strange humans. If they would not show fear, perhaps they would show anger. His fleet surrounded Trader Kang Su's small ship. Weapons locked and ready. Human vessel, you will surrender your cargo and submit to boarding, the War Prime commanded. Trader Kang Su appeared on screen, looking mildly puzzled. Boarding? Oh, you want to see the cargo? Sure, come aboard. Though I should warn you, most of it's just farming equipment for New Jeju. Pretty boring stuff. The Vextar warriors boarded the ship expecting to find weapons or military supplies. Instead, they found exactly what Trader Kang Su had promised. Farming equipment. Irrigation systems. Atmospheric processors, seed banks, except the farming equipment was built to precision that put their own war machines to shame. The irrigation systems could redirect rivers. The atmospheric processors could reshape entire weather patterns. The seeds were designed to grow in any environment, even vacuum. This was not farming equipment. This was terraforming technology. World-shaping tools that could turn barren rocks into garden planets. Pretty amazing, right? Said Trader Kang Su, patting one of the massive machines. This little beauty can plant a forest in a week. The colonists love these things. Makes their job so much easier, the Vextar. Boarding party returned to their ships in confused silence. Dr. Park. Mina finally got her chance to meet the aliens in person when War Prime Kethva agreed to a face-to-face meeting. She arrived at the neutral location between Earth and the alien fleet with a small delegation and a collection of gifts. The gifts were simple things. Human art, music recordings, books of poetry, samples of food from different worlds. She presented them to War Prime Kethva as if she were welcoming a neighbor to the neighborhood. These represent who we are, she explained, setting each item carefully on the table between them. This painting is by artist Lee Min from Mars Colony. This music was composed by the children's choir on Europa. These poems were written by farmers on New Eden as they watched their first harvest grow. War Prime Kethva examined each gift with growing confusion. The art was beautiful but contained no hidden messages. The music was complex but held no battle codes. The poetry spoke of love, hope, and the joy of watching things grow. "Where are your weapons?" he demanded finally. "Your battle plans? Your threats?" Dr. Park Mina looked genuinely puzzled. "Why would we bring weapons to a first contact meeting? That would be terribly rude. But we are your enemies. We came to conquer you." "Oh," said Dr. Park Mina thoughtfully. "Is that still what you want to do? Because it seems like you're curious about us now. Curiosity is much more interesting than conquest, don't you think?" During the meeting, historian Oyuna shared more stories of humanity's past. She spoke casually as if discussing the weather, about wars that had reshaped solar systems and weapons that could unmake stars. "The Titan bombardment was probably our most destructive moment," she said, sipping tea. "We turned Jupiter's moon into a weapons platform. Could have destroyed any world in the solar system in minutes, but after we used it once, we realized how terrible it was. So we turned it into a nature preserve instead. The wildlife there is lovely now." War Prime Kethva's three-eyed advisor leaned close and whispered urgently. The humans were describing casual destruction on a scale that impressed even the Vextar Empire, but they spoke of it as history, as mistakes they had moved beyond. "You gave up this power?" War Prime Kethva asked. "Of course," said Oyuna. "Power without wisdom is just destruction. We learned that the hard way." The meeting ended with more questions than answers. War Prime Kethva returned to his flagship to find his officers arguing among themselves. Half wanted to retreat immediately. The other half wanted to study these impossible humans further. "They are not what they seem," reported his chief analyst. "Every civilian structure serves a military purpose. Every peaceful technology has destructive potential. Their entire civilization is a weapon that chooses not to fire. Then why don't they fire it?" asked War Prime Kethva. "That," said his advisor, "is what we need to understand." Back on Earth, Admiral Lee Hyun finished reading the day's reports and smiled. The aliens were learning slowly but surely. They were beginning to ask the right questions. Dr. Park Mina sent her daily message to the Vextar fleet. "Dinner tonight features cuisine from 12 different worlds. You're welcome to join us. We'd love to hear about your own cultures and foods." The transformation had begun, though War Prime Kethva did not yet realize it. The first seeds of doubt about the wisdom of conquest had been planted in Vextar minds. Soon those seeds would grow into something neither species expected: understanding. War Prime Kethva was growing desperate. 2 weeks had passed and nothing the humans did made sense. They treated his invasion fleet like honored guests. They shared their technology freely. They answered his questions with patient kindness. It was driving him insane. His warriors were beginning to whisper. Some wondered if conquest was really necessary. Others questioned whether the humans were even capable of fear. A few had started learning human languages and asking about their art. This had to stop. "We attack New Jeju," War Prime Kethva announced to his officers. "It's an agricultural world. Farmers and food producers. Surely they will show proper fear when faced with death." His fleet moved toward the green world that hung like a jewel between Mars and the asteroid belt. New Jeju was famous throughout human space for its beautiful farms and peaceful way of life. If any humans would break under pressure, it would be simple farmers. The planet looked defenseless. Rolling hills covered in crops, small towns connected by gentle rivers, orbital stations that seemed designed more for beauty than function. Perfect targets for a demonstration of Vextar power. Pilot Nambo was checking his atmospheric processor when the alien fleet arrived. The machine looked like a flying barn, all curves and soft edges painted in cheerful colors. He was scheduled to help with the wheat harvest in Sector 7, but the alien visitors seemed more interesting. "Control, this is Nambo," he said into his communicator. "Looks like our guests want to see the farms up close. Should I give them a tour?" "Negative, Nambo," came the reply from the planet's coordinator. "They're powering weapons. This might get interesting." "Oh," said Nambo, checking his readings. "Well, that changes things." Switching to dance mode. His atmospheric processor transformed. The curved hull split and reconfigured, revealing sleek lines and crystalline surfaces. Weapons ports opened like flower petals. The machine that had looked like farm equipment moments before now resembled a work of art designed by angels of war. War Prime. Kethava watched in shock as the defenseless agricultural world revealed its true nature. Every farm building unfolded into fortified positions. The gentle rivers redirected to form energy conduits. The orbital stations rearranged themselves into a defensive grid that could have protected a dozen worlds, but most shocking of all were the farmers themselves. Merchant Song-gil was loading grain into his storage silos when the attack began. His cargo hauler sprouted missile pods and shield generators. The grain silos became railgun platforms. The irrigation system he had been installing that morning transformed into a network of energy weapons. "Sorry about the mess," he broadcast to the attacking aliens. "We'll try to keep the damage to a minimum. The crops are almost ready for harvest." Pilot Nambo led a squadron of atmospheric processors into space to meet the Vextar fighters. His radio crackled with the voices of other pilots, all of them farmers and engineers and artists who flew like they had been born in the void. "Remember, everyone," Nambo said calmly. "Stun settings only. These folks are just confused, not evil." The battle that followed was unlike anything the Vextar had ever experienced. The human fighters moved like dancers, weaving through space in patterns that seemed impossible. They sang as they fought, ancient Korean folk songs that turned the chaos of combat into something almost peaceful, but their skill was terrifying. Every shot disabled without destroying, every maneuver was perfect. Every formation flowed like water around the enemy attacks. War Prime Kethva's best pilots, veterans of 100 conquests, found themselves helpless against farmers who treated space combat like a form of artistic expression. "How are they doing this?" demanded his flight commander, watching his squadron get systematically disabled by opponents who seemed to be enjoying themselves. "They're playing with us," whispered a Vextar pilot whose ship had been gently captured by some kind of tractor beam. "They could have destroyed us in seconds, but they're just playing." On the planet's surface, Merchant Song-gil was redirecting energy blasts with tools he had installed that morning. The Vextar ground forces found themselves facing defensive systems that had been disguised as farm equipment. A barn became a shield generator. A windmill became a communications array. A greenhouse became a weapon platform that fired stunning energy bursts with surgical precision. And through it all, the humans maintained their impossible calm. "Strike Team Alpha. Please avoid the eastern fields," Song-gil radioed to the Vextar forces. "The wheat there is almost ready, and I'd hate to see it damaged. You're welcome to land in the northern pasture instead." The Vextar warriors had trained for conquest, destruction, and death. They had no idea how to respond to enemies who offered them safe landing zones while defeating them. Within 6 hours, the entire Vextar assault force was captured, disabled, or had surrendered out of sheer confusion. Not a single human had been seriously hurt. Not a single alien had been killed. Diplomat Shin Ara contacted the alien fleet with her usual warm smile. "War Prime Kethva, your warriors fought very bravely," she said kindly. "We've prepared comfortable quarters for them while they recover from the battle. The medical teams are taking excellent care of everyone. Dinner will be served at 6. We're having bulgogi tonight, with vegetables from the farms they tried to attack. I think they'll enjoy it." War Prime Kethava stared at the screen in total silence. His invasion fleet had been defeated by farmers. His elite warriors were being served dinner by their enemies. His most powerful weapons had been stopped by agricultural equipment, and the humans were apologizing for the inconvenience. "I don't understand," he said finally. "We came to conquer you. We attacked your world. We tried to kill your people.
Why are you feeding my warriors?"
"Because they're hungry," said diplomat Shinara, as if this was the most obvious thing in the galaxy. "And because they're our guests now. We take hospitality very seriously. Guests? They're prisoners of war." "Oh no," said Shinara, looking genuinely shocked. "Prisoners are kept in cells. Guests are given comfortable rooms and good food. Your people are definitely guests." That night, Vextar warriors sat in comfortable quarters eating food prepared by the humans they had tried to kill. The meals were delicious. The beds were soft. The humans who served them were polite and kind. Many of the warriors had never experienced kindness from enemies before. Some had never experienced real kindness at all. War Prime Kethva sat alone in his flagship, staring at reports that made no sense. His forces had been defeated completely but treated with respect. His warriors were prisoners, but lived better than they had on their own ships. For the first time in his long military career, War Prime Kethva began to wonder if there might be a better way to live than conquest and fear. On New Jeju, pilot Nambo was back to checking his atmospheric processor, now returned to its peaceful farm equipment configuration. The wheat harvest would continue tomorrow. The alien visitors had actually been quite interesting to meet, once they stopped trying to blow things up. "Control," he radioed. "The guests seem much calmer now. Think they might want to learn about farming? This soil analysis equipment is really pretty fascinating." The seeds of change had been planted in more than just fields that day. War Prime Kethva had been a guest of humanity for 2 weeks. His quarters on Station Harmony were larger and more comfortable than his command suite had been. The food was better than anything served on Vextar warships. The humans treated him with respect that he had never shown to his own prisoners. It was making him deeply uncomfortable. "I demand to know your secret," he said to Captain Kim Juno during their daily meeting. "How can your species be so weak and so strong at the same time?" Captain Kim Juno considered this question while sipping his morning tea. The view from the station's observation lounge showed Saturn's rings spinning slowly in the distance, beautiful and eternal. "Would you like to see our civilization?" Kim Juno asked finally. "Really see it? I've seen your cities, your farms, your art galleries disguised as weapons platforms." "No," said Kim Juno with a gentle smile. "You've seen our front yard. Would you like the full tour?" War Prime Kethva agreed, mostly out of curiosity. He expected to be shown more hidden weapons, more peaceful-looking technology with violent purposes. Instead, Captain Kim Juno took him on a journey that changed everything he thought he knew about humanity. They started at Luna, where children played in reduced gravity, while their parents worked in crystal gardens that could deflect planet-killing weapons. Then to Mars, where vast cities bloomed, under atmospheric domes that doubled as planetary shields, but Kim Juno didn't stop there. "Proxima Station," announced Kim Juno as they emerged from hyperspace near the closest star. "Our first interstellar colony, about 4 light-years from Earth." War Prime Kethva stared at a space station the size of a moon, surrounded by smaller habitats and industrial platforms. Millions of humans lived and worked here, so far from their home that light took years to travel between them. "This is impossible," he whispered. "The energy requirements alone." "Oh, we've learned to be efficient," said Kim Juno casually. Next stop, the Centauri Gardens. They jumped again. And again. Each time, War Prime Kethva saw new human settlements, each one larger and more advanced than anything the Vextar Empire had built. Worlds remade into perfect gardens, asteroid belts converted into orbital cities, gas giants surrounded by energy-collecting networks that could power entire civilizations. "How many worlds?" asked War Prime Kethva after the 15th jump. "Settled worlds?" "About 800, said Kim Juno. "We have research stations and automated facilities in maybe 3,000 more systems. The exact number changes as we keep expanding." The Vextar Empire controlled 40 systems. They considered themselves masters of their region of space. Humanity casually maintained presence in thousands. "But your ships," War Prime Kethva protested. "We saw your fleet. 50 vessels at most." Those weren't warships, Kim Juno explained patiently. Those were patrol boats, local security. We don't really need a military anymore, so we converted most of our fleet to civilian use. Would you like to see a real warship? They jumped one more time, arriving at what looked like empty space. Then Kim Juno transmitted a signal, and War Prime Kethava's sensors detected something that made his blood freeze. The ship was larger than his entire fleet combined. It hung in space like a sleeping giant, its hull dark and silent. No energy signatures, no active weapons, but War Prime Kethava's instruments could detect the potential within that vast form. This single vessel could have destroyed the Vextar Empire in an afternoon. The peaceful dawn, said Kim Juno fondly. Our last dreadnought, built during the AI wars 3,000 years ago. We keep her here as a memorial. Memorial? To remind us why we chose peace. Their final stop was Earth, but not the Earth that War Prime Kethva had seen before. Kim Juno brought him to a place hidden beneath the planet's surface. A vast chamber carved from living rock and filled with gentle light. This was the Hall of Remembrance. Dr. Park Meena met them at the entrance, her usual cheerful expression replaced by something more solemn. Every name, she said quietly, leading them into the hall. Every human who died in our wars before the Great Peace. We remember them all. The chamber stretched further than the eye could see, its walls covered with names written in flowing script. Billions of names, the final count of humanity's violent past. War Prime Kethva walked among the memorial walls in stunned silence. So many dead, so much destruction. The humans had been even more warlike than the Vextar, more destructive than any species he had ever encountered, and they had chosen to stop. Why? He asked finally. You could have conquered the galaxy. You still could. Why did you choose peace? Dr. Park Meena touched one of the walls gently, her fingers tracing a cluster of names. Because we learned that strength without wisdom is just destruction, she said. We became so powerful that we could destroy anything. But we realized that creation is harder than destruction. Building is harder than breaking. And protecting is harder than conquering. She led him to the center of the hall, where a simple fountain sent water cascading in impossible patterns through the air. We discovered that true strength isn't the ability to destroy your enemies, she continued. It's the ability to make enemies into friends, to choose mercy when you could choose vengeance, to build when you could burn. War Prime Kethva stared at the fountain, watching water flow in defiance of gravity, beautiful and serene. You could end us, he said. My empire, my people. You could wipe us out in minutes. Yes, said Dr. Park Meena simply. But why would we want to? Because we attacked you. We tried to conquer you. And now you're learning, she replied with a gentle smile. That's much more valuable than revenge. They showed him more that day. The research centers where human scientists worked to solve the problems of the galaxy. The universities where alien students were already enrolling to learn human philosophy. The vast gardens where former soldiers tended plants with the same skill they had once used to wage war. We've learned, Dr. Park Meena explained as they watched children from a dozen species play together in New Geneva's Central Park, that the strongest civilizations aren't the ones that can destroy everything. They're the ones that can protect everything. War Prime Kethva returned to his quarters that evening with his mind reeling. Everything he had believed about power, about strength, about the nature of civilization itself had been turned upside down. The humans weren't weak. They were the strongest species he had ever encountered, but they had chosen to use that strength to create rather than destroy, to nurture rather than conquer. For the first time in his life, War Prime Kethva wondered what his own people could become if they learned to choose creation over destruction. That night, he sent a message to the Vextar homeworld, not a report of conquest or defeat, but a request for his government to send diplomats and teachers instead of warriors. The galaxy was about to change, and War Prime Kethva wanted his people to be part of that change, rather than victims of their own ignorance. The transformation had begun. 6 months after the first contact, the galaxy looked very different. Ambassador Kethva stood in the gardens of New Earth, watching children from a dozen species play together under alien stars. A young Vextar named Veltar was teaching human children how to climb using all 4 arms, while human kids showed their new friends how to make flower crowns from earth daisies. The former War Prime had traded his armor for simple robes of blue and silver. The title War Prime belonged to his past. Now he was simply Ambassador HFY, representative of a Vextar empire that had signed the Terran peace accords not out of defeat, but out of hope. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" said Ambassador Li Te, joining him by the garden's edge. Admiral Li Hyun's daughter had taken on the role of humanity's first galactic ambassador, helping other species understand the human way of peace. "I never imagined children could play like this," HFY admitted, watching a Vextar youngling laugh as human children pushed him on a swing. "On my world, children train for war from the age of 5. They learn to fight before they learn to read." "And now?" asked Li Te. "Now our young ones ask to study art and music. They want to learn how to grow things instead of destroy them. My own offspring sent me a poem yesterday." "A poem." HFY's 4 eyes glittered with what might have been tears. "I had to ask a human translator what it meant, because we have so few words for beauty in our language." The changes had spread far beyond the Vextar Empire. Word of humanity's peaceful strength had traveled faster than light across the galaxy. Species that had never heard of Earth were sending delegations to learn about the humans who could conquer everything but chose to tend gardens instead. Student Park Jun was leading one such group through the interspecies University on Station Harmony. His class included beings from 17 different worlds, all eager to understand human philosophy. The key, he explained to his diverse students, is understanding that strength and gentleness aren't opposites. They support each other. You can only be truly gentle when you're strong enough that you don't need to prove it. A insectoid delegate from the hive worlds raised a claw. "But Teacher Park Jun, what if others attack you because they see gentleness as weakness? Then you show them the difference between weakness and choice." Park Jun replied with a smile. "We're not gentle because we have to be. We're gentle because we want to be, and that choice makes all the difference." In the research laboratories, former Vextar weapons engineers worked alongside human scientists to develop new technologies. Not weapons of war, but tools of creation. Atmospheric processors that could turn toxic worlds into gardens. Medical devices that could heal injuries thought impossible to treat. Energy systems that could power entire civilizations without harming their environments. Engineer Cho, Day found himself working with a Vextar scientist named Tethra on a project that would have been unthinkable months earlier. They were designing a planetary restoration system, something that could repair worlds damaged by war and neglect. "Your crystal technology," Tethra said, examining Choday's latest designs. "It's not just functional. It's beautiful." "Why do you make functional things beautiful?" "Because beauty matters," Choday replied, adjusting the harmonic frequencies in his design. "If we're going to reshape worlds, shouldn't we make them lovely to look at? People work better, live better when they're surrounded by beauty." The impact spread beyond technology and politics. Art galleries throughout human space now displayed works created by alien artists learning human techniques. Concert halls featured music that blended human melodies with Vextar harmonics and crystalline resonances from the Silicon Collective. Most importantly, children throughout the galaxy were growing up with new ideas about what civilization could be. Elder Kim Hana sat in her favorite chair in the New Seoul retirement home, surrounded by visitors who came to hear her stories. At 130 years old, she was one of the last humans who remembered the final days of the war era. "What was it like?" asked a young Vextar student. "When your people still fought wars?" Kim Hana's eyes grew distant as she remembered those dark years. "Terrible," she said quietly. "We were very good at destruction, too good. We could break planets like eggs, turn stars into weapons, make entire species disappear. But we were empty inside. Angry all the time. Afraid of each other." "What changed?" asked a human child. "We learned that being strong enough to destroy everything meant we were strong enough to protect everything instead," Kim Hana said with a gentle smile. "And protecting things, creating things, nurturing things that made us happy in ways that victory never could." The transformation wasn't limited to individual relationships. Entire galactic power structures were changing. The old alliance of conquest-based empires found themselves isolated as more and more species joined the growing coalition of worlds that had adopted human principles of cooperation over domination, the Stellar Federation, the Crimson Empire, the Void Hunters. All the old powers that ruled through fear and strength found their subject worlds asking questions they had never asked before. Questions about whether there might be better ways to live than under the threat of destruction. Some of the old empires tried to resist the change. The Crimson Empire sent a war fleet to crush a rebellion on one of their colony worlds. They found human observers there, not as conquerors or defenders, but as teachers helping the colonists establish their own peaceful government. The human ships didn't fight the Crimson Fleet. They just watched, and somehow that watching was more terrifying than any weapon could have been. The Crimson commanders found themselves wondering what would happen if they fired on the peaceful human vessels. What kind of response would that bring from a species that could destroy galaxies but chose to plant flowers instead? The Crimson Fleet withdrew without firing a shot. Ambassador Li Te stood before the First Galactic Council, addressing delegates from over 200 worlds. The Great Hall buzzed with dozens of languages, but translation devices carried her words to every being present. "We offer no demands, no ultimatums, no threats," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "We offer only an invitation to join us in building something better than empires built on fear." She gestured to the gallery where children from dozens of species watched the proceedings, their faces bright with curiosity and hope. "They are our future," she continued. "All of our children from every world, every species. We can give them a galaxy of endless war, where strength means the ability to destroy enemies, or we can give them a galaxy of endless peace, where strength means the wisdom to make enemies into friends." The vote was not unanimous. Some delegates remained convinced that peace was weakness, that cooperation was impossible, that different species could never truly trust each other. But for the first time in galactic history, more voices called for peace than for war. The final scene took place in the gardens of New Earth, where Ambassador Kethva's grandchildren played with human children under the light of distant stars. The young ones didn't think about the old barriers between species. They simply played together, learned together, grew together. Elder Kim Hana watched them with tears of joy in her ancient eyes. She had lived to see humanity's greatest dream realized, not the conquest of the galaxy, but its transformation into something worthy of the children who would inherit it. "What do you think they'll build?" asked Ambassador Li Te, sitting beside the old woman. "Something we can't even imagine," Kim Hana replied with certainty. "Something beautiful." Above them, the stars shone down on a galaxy learning to choose creation over destruction, cooperation over conquest, and hope over fear. It would not be easy. Change never was. But for the first time in galactic history, beings throughout the stars looked toward the future and smiled. The age of peace had begun, and humanity had shown the way simply by choosing to be gentle while strong enough to be otherwise. The greatest victory was not conquest, but the decision to put down their weapons and tend gardens instead. And the flowers they planted grew in soil, enriched by the ashes of old hatreds, blooming into something more beautiful than anyone had dared to dream.